Rulfchen, and he steals the farm! How did that connect by anyway?
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Amazon EU Masters. We've done a bit of a switcheroo here on the casters. I'm Hiprain, joined by Aux, as we're getting ready to break down our fourth and get going into our fourth game of the day. Aux, first of all, how you doing? Nice new glasses, I see you.
Yeah. Just rocking the new specs. Got my lenses updated so I can have a keen eye on all the great gameplay we're going to get. We got some pretty stacked matches coming up.
Yeah, honestly, the next three matches are going to be really exciting. We'll be starting off with PENTA versus PDW, and these are some of the replays from the first games they have played in the tournament so far. PDW found themselves a win. They are the first seed from the Ultraliga, and they are a all-Polish powerhouse. 5 Polish players on this roster. On the side of PENTA, unable to find themselves a win so far, 0-1 in the groups.
And I think there needs to be some context here because PDW's first game was against Tricked, and Tricked haven't looked too hot. Yeah. I think there was some aspects of the draft from PDW I wasn't too confident on. It was very reliant on Bruness getting ahead, but he delivered spectacularly. Whereas when we look at PENTA, they were up against Movistar, and I think Movistar are absolutely on fire. Maxwell in particular, who you just saw die there, has really been performing. So I feel like although PDW I'm favoring in this matchup, the fact that PDW 1-0, PENTA 0-1, I think the difference in opponents definitely a factor there.
I mean, we're coming just off a Movistar versus Tricked matchup, and Tricked got slapped about. Let's be completely frank about it. PENTA, even though they lost that matchup, definitely put more of a challenge versus Movistar Riders as we are moving into the picks and bans for this fourth game of the day. And we'll see whether or not, PENTA can pull it back and maybe make Group B a little bit more exciting. So we'll see what Lutzi gets taken away here. We'll obviously see a bit more of the risen priority in the Xin Zhao in this third day of the Amazon EU Masters. But for now, the Varus and the Fresh are going to get taken away.
Yeah, Varus, something that we've seen Funky play an absolute ton of domestically, so no big surprise to see that one banned away. And just to go back to the point I was making about the draft in PDW, if you didn't see the game they had up against Trick, their composition was full AP apart from the jungle Lee Sin. So if Lee Sin fell behind, it could have been very rough. And that's why I think draft is important here, because again, a favoring PDW in this matchup, but a good draft for PENTA could give them that advantage, push things over.
The one thing I do want to say about PENTA is they had an amazing read on Tricked in that game. When they played versus them, it just felt like they were ready for everything Tricked were going to throw at them. And I want to see if that was just, maybe a one-off, or they are just incredibly prepped. And, if they can read everything that PDW are looking... PDW, I'm talking the other way around, but if PDW can read what PENTA are doing, then it shows that they are prepped for this group. The bans have been rattling out. The Tristana, the Syndra banned away by PDW, followed up by a Jace ban here from PENTA. Now PENTA looking for that final ban. It's going to be the Xin Zhao. So these things like the VA go open if they're looking for kind of first pickable junglers. We've obviously seen a bit of emphasis on the Lee Sin as of late as well. I say as of late, but another one of those kind of trifecta AD jungles. Looks like they are just going to lock that in for Bruness. Had an absolutely stellar performance on that in the first game of the group stage.
Yeah, and I think on the other side for PENTA, Diego could potentially make sense. Trundle is also an option. I expect them to take that jungler in this rotation, leave that third pick, potentially for a counter pick or something to take away before the next phase of bans. So I think Trundle makes sense, pretty safe. Obviously really good at dueling, just able to reduce that AD and quite relevant later on with the pillars. And now they're sort of in a position where they kind of have choice if there's anything they really want to prioritize. Here, being on red side, I think you have a lot of options in terms of counter pick, but an AD that you want to prioritize could be picked up here. If there's something that specifically we want to see Funky get his hands on before it starts to get banned away, but instead they're going to go for the Rakan. Something we've seen a lot of, not just in EU Masters, but globally, a lot in the LEC. Obviously a lot of mobility, and importantly provides a lot of engage for the team.
I like this as well because it already PENTA kind of leaning into this jungle support duo. The two are going to be moving around the map together and looking to make the play. So they are getting themselves some pretty good skirmishing power just in that hand. But on the other side, PDW going to get their hands onto the Ziggs and the Camille here. Now, obviously, Ziggs somewhat flexible between that mid and bot lane position, so they're not really revealing their hand too much. We know that Camille is going top side, and it looks like it may just be a bit of attention here from PENTA towards the bot lane. allow Funky something like this Ezreal does mean that Leon can move around the map and leave Funky alone in the lane just because he is a pretty safe champion on that Ezreal. So I like this pickup for them, and it really will unlock Leon to move around with Rulfchen. But as we move into ban phase 2, we'll see where the attention goes on this front. I was probably expecting to see a fair few supports here getting taken away, things that can handle the Rakan in lane, things that can kind of match. But for now, actually, so their attention a little bit more towards that Silas. Czajek had a pretty good game 1 on it.
Yeah, I think honestly, you're not massively concerned about supports because Rakan holds up pretty well in most things. And again, you're going to be roaming pretty extensively. I don't think there's anything that you're going to pair up with the Ziggs that'll be too threatening to the Ezreal. This Silas ban hints at a TF potential pickup. You know, you take that one away, and obviously it's one of the things people pick into TF. We do still have the LeBlanc open and available, which I know PDW do like to play around, at least in LeBlanc, a very strong combo. So I wonder if we would see that one banned away, instead going for the Galio. So a lot of global ultimates being cut down here. I would say I kind of feel like Rise is a standout that's still left open and available. So something that Phantomles does play, and we'll see what PDW off the ban out here. If there's a matchup they don't want to deal with in the top lane, potentially Renekton could be a ban as well. They're actually going for the Seraphine, and this is something that Phantomles has played. He's played more supportive champions in the Prime League, Seraphines, Karmas, things like that. So just kind of thinning the pool in that regard.
Looks like just going for a pretty comfortable top lane here in the GP, so if it can hold the waves and also have impact on the map with that cannon barrage. So Scarface is going to take that. What are you expecting now, Aux? What do we think we're going to see from PDW?
I think, honestly, you could pick pretty much anything in the support role. I think having, you know, an extra layer of support would be quite nice. Having the Nautilus means that you have a decent amount of single target threat, but I think the LeBlanc makes so much sense for Czajek. You know, talked about it before, said could potentially see that one be banned away. It's left open, really strong combo with the Lee Sin. Czajek is an absolute monster. He has been really good domestically. And I think that him having that pick allows a lot of pressure. And now I'm a bit concerned for Penta, right? Because you have a Gangplank, not something you're typically going to play around too heavily. Ezreal, Rakan, again, a lane you're not going to play around too heavily. And this mid lane pick now going up against the LeBlanc, I think, you know, Rise might be a bit risky here. I think it is something Phantomles plays. Potentially the Sandra could be brought out. Just it is the answer we have typically seen a lot into that LeBlanc.
What do you think of things like Cassiopeia as well? We have seen a kind of rise in priority of the Cassiopeia. What do you make of that matchup? Or do you think Lissandra's just like is the easiest to pull off?
We're seeing more Cassio into Rise. I wouldn't say we're seeing too much isolated Cassiopeia. It's not as, you know, it is seeing a bit more play, but not a ton. I think LeBlanc, you need something that can survive that. They're going for the Orianna. As far as mid lane matchups go, it's okay into LeBlanc, but there's still that potential. If you land the chains and Lee Sin's there, you're basically going down. A lot of scaling elements on the side of Penta, but I feel like PDW have a ton of agency. And again, Bruness had a monstrous early game in their last game that they had up against Tricked. And I think if he repeats that here, they could just end up taking over the map, spreading the advantages to the side lane. The Penta, I am really looking at Leon. Him and Rulfchen, they pair together very well. You'll see them moving through the jungle together. And I think that's the critical thing they need to play around if they're going to find an advantage.
Yeah, I think, you know, you've got great mid jungle here for PDW, but Penta, you know, great support jungle. So it's going to be the kind of watching the early map state. It's going to be really, really fun. I'd like to see Bruness play some early attention into Phantomles because if that Orianna burns that flash early, that lane does get a little bit harder. And, you know, the capability to go for a repeat gank is two hyper-mobile champions between the jungle mid there. So let's turn our attention towards this early game. Obviously, we kind of hit on it lightly, but what is the expectation for the early game for these teams?
So I think for me, obviously first clears, I don't think anything too exciting is going to come out of that, but I really want to see PDW put pressure down onto that mid lane. I really want to see them look to challenge Phantomles. If you take his flash, if you put him behind, if you establish vision in the area, it frees Czajek to start to move to the side lane. And again, Phantomles can't move without vision. If he starts to walk into the side lane, into the fog of war, very good chance he just gets shut down and taken out. So I'm really looking towards that. I think for the side of Penta, I think they can sort of slow play a bit more. Rulfchen is strong on the Trundle, but I really think you want to put some attention bot lane, free up Leon, and then when he can start moving, you can pair up together, or either wait for his reset timings where he has good opportunity to move around the map. But I think if you're just trying to challenge this mid jungle, without the assistance of Leon, I don't think you're gonna have a good time.
Well, we are on to the Rift for our 4th game here at the Amazon Masters Day 3. This is the Dark 2nd seed in PENTA, taking on Poland's 1st seed from the Ultraliga, PDW. Team who are made up of 5 Polish players.
5 Polish teams in one, wow.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
I mean, both of these orgs are new as well to their domestic league. So this is the first time we're seeing both of them at the European Masters. They're pretty fresh on the scene. And for one of them to be 1st seed and the other one to be 2nd seed, very impressive stuff.
Yeah, I mean, PDW did technically play under a different name that we've seen before, which was Pompa. But PENTA, fresh, they promoted up through to the Prime League at the start of this year. Expectations weren't too high. And then they had a really strong summer performance. And I will say I'm hoping to see them start to have some good performances at E-Masters, because they ended up doing really successfully in the regular season, managed to qualify all the way to the finals off the back of that. So they had 1 series to play against Big, and they got 3-0'd. So it's been a little bit underwhelming since then. Obviously, haven't been able to take a win here, so hoping to see a bit more of that in this one. Now, we have the lanes kicking off. In the top lane, Gangplank really going to be able to establish prio, just the fact that obviously you can harass with that parlay. In the bot lane as well, Ziggs doesn't really start to contest prio heavily at level 1 because your Q's fairly longer cooldown, and also you don't have any points in it. It's really sort of at the level 4-5 point where Ziggs starts to find momentum, level 5 in particular. So for now, Ezreal's kind of just chilling and enjoying the fact that he has a lane that he can push in and contest. And that does mean there's opportunities for Leon, but at this point at level 2, you're unlikely really to see him move around.
Yeah, especially when Rulfchen's on the top side of the Rift, and that was kind of what enabled Scarface to play so aggressive in lane, knowing that his jungler was on this side of the map. It's going to go for a cheeky early recall here before this crab spawns up. Obviously, he has that teleport, isn't going to be necessary as Color's just collecting waves underneath his tower. Just trying to catch up somewhat, and a pink ward's going to get picked up for Scarface just to enable a little bit more vision, because fairly soon the pressure he's going to be able to get from his jungler will kind of slip away from this top side of the Rift. Bruness able to pick up that bottom lane crab, and now that is also going to force PTA to step away. PENTA don't really want to find themselves in a numbers disadvantage, so kind of where the junglers go do dictate how aggressive each individual lane can play. We'll probably expect to see Scarface play a little bit less aggressive now as the wave will be shoving into him.
Yeah, I think it's a smart play. You know, the junglers really using the laners really playing around where the junglers are. But this is an ideal situation for Scarface, right? He pushed the lane in, and after doing so, he's then able to get it to bounce back into him. He gets the reset, he gets a buy, picked up a Dawn's Blade, and now Color's in this uncomfortable position where he has to overextend a bit to contest the farm. But 2 things to take into account. 1, kubYD is actually roamed up to the top side of the map, so if there does break out a skirmish, he's in the vicinity. And on top of that is the Camille. And that is the fundamental issue here. If it was a mobile champion, Rulfchen probably could have just walked in and threatened, but because it is a Camille, very little you could do to gank on the back of that. You throw the pillar down, you just hook shots off it, so we'll see.
Color pretty easier to escape. It's
yeah,
pretty rough, actually.
If you're going to miss the wall, but hit the pillar, then you know you're golden.
It's got a pretty heavy wave shoving into Scarface, and Scarface probably just going to have to accept that one, as Rulfchen's now moving towards the bottom side of the map. You can see Leon already moving forward and just setting up the vision, looking to move around the map as the crab has timed out. But you do see the next crab is spawning on this bottom side of the map, so Rulfchen will be in the area for that. But both of the supports have been pretty active on the map, kind of letting both of the AD carries play almost 1v1 bot side. I mean, it is a Ziggs, it is an Ezreal, so both these champions quite happy just to sit back and farm from a distance.
Those really are the picks to facilitate it. And now's the point where OD's hit. You know, he's got the tier in hand, so a bit more mana to play around with. He's level 5, 3 points in Q. He can kind of just blitz through the waves, and there's a lot more freedom. But yeah, I expected to see these supports make a lot of movement. And again, particularly setting up vision around mid. For the side of PENTA, ensuring Phantomles is safe, and for the side of PDW, allowing Czajek to move, potentially look for ganks onto the Orianna, and have that freedom. And that's the power of LeBlanc, is even though her pushing power isn't the best, it's that all-in threat that constantly keeps you on your toes and means you have to back off. And you can see Czajek trading heavily with Phantomles here.
PDW do get into the area on this crab first, so with the early shove, it does mean that Rulfchen not really gonna be able to do too much about that and just continue to kind of full clear. But Bruness is slowly accruing a slight CS advantage over his counterpart. Keep your eyes on what happens when there's level 6s come in and that kick is available for Bruness. Again, probably fairly hard to do anything to either of these bot lanes, though Funky feeling himself a little bit down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a slow early game. We might see a fair amount more momentum when, you know, the Ultimate for Lee Sin's available, the Cannon Barrage. But for now, both teams kind of just happy playing the lanes out. Nothing too exciting happening. That being said, though, we do see Color has consistently been pushing up in this lane. Rulfchen potentially looking for a window, but again, Color's been so respectful. He knows when he's potentially in a vulnerable position to be ganked. And the Camille, very safe. One of the big reasons she's so strong right now. Decent in lane, has a lot of safety, and able to scale up and be a monster.
Has actually been spotted out by Rulfchen. Is Czajek gonna stop the bait of Phantomles. Phantomles really needs to base because he's completely out of mana. Czajek feeling pretty happy with himself on that one. Now, with this slow early game, Aux, who does this favor? Which team's happier with this slower early?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit tricky to call. I think PDW mid jungle definitely could have been a lot more proactive. So I think Penta kind of okay with that one. The fact Phantomles hasn't really been challenged, I say they will be all right with. But honestly, I think there's a lot of aspects of PDW that comes online now that we can still look to see. I think I wouldn't make too many statements about how the early game's gone at this point. And it's really now I'm looking for things to explode, and that's where we'll be able to make some more heavy statements. For now, just see Rulfchen helping Scarface to score the wave in. We do see with that scuttle up, though, we've got Cupboard already moving towards the top side, and they may now look for something mid. But again, Phantom has just been playing this entire laning phase so safe, and I think that's the critical thing. You could have seen the Orianna challenge, you could have seen that flash going down, you could have seen more proactivity. Penta really didn't allow that to happen, and particularly Phantomles was playing this very safely.
And there is Leon roaming down to make sure that Phantomles can finally find the reset he's been looking for a little while now. Funky is struggling at this point to match into OD on the lane clear. Obviously, now that last chapter finished up, it's just pretty hard to match.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Ezreal's slower to clear the waves, but OD can't really push up, so it is just very slow paced. We do now see PDW. They've gone for the Herald on the top side. They're not being contested. Penta going to answer with this red buff, steal some jungle camps, and potentially transition that into the Dragon. But PDW are aware they don't need everyone on the top side to take this Herald. Bruness will pick it up. And now you see a bit moving down to the bot side. They will give up this red buff, but with Czajek in position, Penta have to be a little bit careful.
Definitely has to be. Able to dash away, and Rulfchen stealing away a couple of camps. Is going to eat its chains from Czajek, but Rulfchen pretty okay. He's going to use that smite. Not really wanting to hold that for the Dragon. It is only Cloud Drake, so I don't think they're overly interested in it right now.
I mean, I don't think there's any real need to go for the Dragon, but it is going to be a very late one. Cloud Dragon isn't necessarily a bad thing because, you know, being a Cloud Dragon, it means that it's not necessarily going to be a Cloud Soul. In honesty, it sort of really is dependent, but I think Penta make the decision go for a bit of extra gold instead of going for that Dragon. But now it means PDW have that Herald advantage, and I'm interested to see where they can use that. They can throw it down mid, and they can do this sort of 2 Herald play. The first one takes 2 plays, the second one finishes it off. Really effective usage, especially against an Orianna, so much wave clear. But honestly, I kind of would like to see them use it either around the Camille, give that Camille a big gold injection, or throw a bot lane, right? You have a Ziggs, 1 Herald, plus a couple of autos, and it's basically the tower down. So I think a lot of options here for PDW on the back of the Herald. Looks like Bruness is leaning towards the top side. Remember, with the Camille ult, Scarface doesn't have a way of escaping this gank.
No. Scarface has a flash, but you can't flash out of the Camille ult, so might be a little hard. But it's pretty chill right now for Scarface, just farming up, matching the farm. Obviously, eventually it does get to a point where he's able to one-shot the waves, but if Color is left alone in the top side, will just melt through towers. Scarface has a fairly large wave to play with, and it feels like Scarface just playing the baiting game here versus Color.
Yeah, but again, it's difficult to gank the Camille, and It's been a very slow-paced game. I think typically when talking about the Ultra Liga, people have tended to say that the teams have been more slow playing historically in EU Masters. But honestly, I felt like we would have seen a bit more action in this game, particularly from the side of Penta. But both teams had a lot of scaling elements, and I think critically Penta shut down the aggression in the mid lane, which sort of allowed them to get to this point. But again, now Dragon's sort of being leaned towards. We have control of this mid lane area. This means Czajek can start playing around the fog of war. This is really important because if Penta want to push in, face checking LeBlanc can be dangerous, but with Czajek missing a couple of his abilities there, it's given them the window to move in, and with OD still bot, they've now got a decent amount of vision in that river. But again, both teams just going to back off. Neither of them willing to handshake and go for a fight or a skirmish.
Definitely, probably the calmest game we've had at EU Masters. We have some very explosive games, but it's sitting back and relaxing, and I worry for, you know, what the game plan is going to be for these teams, because we're now over that 12-minute mark, just about. Gold lead completely dead even between these teams. No one's been able to really pick up too much. A plate, give or take, has been traded out either side. But it is just a calm start, Aux. It's been a very calm start. Rulfchen is going to start up this dragon. This will be the first objective for the side of Penta. Obviously, they are pushing into that Rift Herald, and there's a collapse coming in, so Rulfchen has to finish this one up. The bomb's going to hit. He's going to flash away to safety. Dragon is finally picked up as Bruness about to lose his Rift Herald timer, so expect it to go down here on the bot side. But multiple people are moving over. You've got Leon, you've got Rulfchen, so it's a 3 versus 3. The charge will go down, the plate will get traded, but I don't think this. I think it's just kill the tower. Although
it's just too much. Yeah, it's just a little bit more, and it'd be in satchel range. So very close. And again, I like that they're using on the Ziggs lane, and essentially this means if they ever leave this lane isolated, the tower's basically gone. Now they are looking.
Shockwave comes out from Phantomles. He flashes away to safety. Bruness sees a little bit of damage in response, but and they're able to keep their mid lane alive. Flashless Orianna now, finally. Something we did hit on has come forward, and with no teleport on Funky, no one's going to be able to hold this wave, so Odie should be able to pick up this first Tower of Blood. Yeah, it does look like Cupboard's going to let this get all given over to Odie.
It's so hard to keep that tower alive because the Ziggs just needs like an auto and it's done. Now, although it is 2 summoners for 1 for PDW, I actually don't think it's that bad for them just because of the importance of the summoners, right? It's Orianna's flash. LeBlanc flash, Lee Sin flash. I know Lee Sin flash is great for playmaking, but they don't really need those summoners as much from a defensive sense. Keeping the Orianna vulnerable is really important because when I look across Penta, right, I look at PDW's threat and I think Phantomles, it's what we talked about all game, that threat to the mid jungle. The immobile Orianna is, you know, the target you can often look for leading up to team fights, and there is now a window open. I think it's been a very slow game. I expected more from the mid jungle of PDW, but they've started to find a bit of momentum, and now that Ziggs is able to cash in on that tower, and he's going to start moving around the map. Odie actually posted a screenshot from his match the other day of the amount of damage he did to towers, and it was an ungodly amount. So he is very much the sort of player that's like, I'm just going to move around, take every structure in the game, and this is kind of the game plan now for PDW. Penta looking to try and stop this, but again, you look across the map, Funky's nowhere near. Although there is TP for both mid laners, it would end up being a numbers advantage for PDW if something kicked off. So
yeah,
they will back off, but Penta have to be a bit cautious about contesting with a man down.
And Scarface did just one-shot the wave, so it does make it a little hard to push that tower. And you've now got the GP, level 11, Cannon Barrage in hand. And it will do some serious damage to the towers. Remember, this is the kind of mini rework Gangplank, so still count as a melee on his parlays. And doesn't have up to 5 barrels, it is just still capped at 3.
Yeah, but ultimately keeps your laning fresher now. Odie thinks he's going to get a chance to hit the wave, but doesn't. Just be a bit careful, yeah. He was kind of in a difficult position trying to navigate out because he didn't want to walk towards the Raptors, but flashbang for the Ziggs, pretty big. If we do see a contest coming in for this second dragon, then that's something that Penta could potentially capitalize on. But for now, PDW going to pick up the Herald. The reset timings from Penta mean they weren't really in position to stop this one. And once more, we're seeing PDW edging ahead, right? They got the first Herald, they got some gold, they got a tower, they've now got the second Herald. It's going to help them out, crack open some of these structures.
Oh, Funky has to be careful, able to shift away. The big thing is double Herald. Like you said, they beat both Heralds, you got the Ziggs. this time around, you don't have to worry too much about the plates, so you should be able to take down these towers fairly quickly.
That mid tower is a herald and a satchel away from just being down.
Yeah,
so very easy to capitalize on. But for now, again, Penta push in, look to establish some vision control. We see Rulfchen and Leon walking together. This is something that obviously most teams you want to pair up your jungler and support. But I think for Penta more than anything, we see Rulfchen and Leon holding hands all the time, moving together. That powerful duo having the support jungle means a lot less dangerous than going alone. Again, things pretty slow. They have set up some vision around this dragon, and I think PDW could lean into this. I think they should feel confident if they want to set up on this objective. But the big thing, the big takeaway is if we do see a soul, it's going to be so late in this game, just because that first dragon was taken pretty late on, and it means it's not really a major threat.
Yeah. Well, 36 seconds until it spawns. The vision, I wouldn't say it's dominant on either side. PDW do have slightly better vision, and it honestly looks like Penta are okay just to give it up. They did pick up that first dragon. I don't think they're overly fussed about giving over one mountain. And like you said, it's not like Soul's going to be a win condition anytime soon. Obviously, if it's something like an Infernal Soul, Ziggs, Ezreal, both of those champions absolutely adore that Soul. But we need to talk spikes here because it's been a slow game. We haven't seen first blood
Has it, Jake? Has it been a slow game?
It's been 17 minutes, mate, and we haven't had first blood. So when are we looking for these champions to spike? When are we looking and expecting to see some action come out other than, neutral objectives falling?
I'm looking at the scoreboard and I'm counting 4 Divine Thunderers.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good spike, right? This is all I'm saying. I feel like Ezreal is a bit more on the 2 items, and I think the rest of Penta would be happy to wait for that. But really, I think PDW in a pretty good spot now, right? Ziggs spikes hard on 1 item. LeBlanc, when she has the Sork shoes and the Ludens, it's a ton of flat magic penetration. But again, like there's champions like Camille who can lean into that 2 item spike. It's the same for Penta with the Ezreal, the 2 item spike. So we could just see this one being slow still ultimately, but we do get the dragon picked up by PDW and that mid lane tower. So advantage over them. It's 1,500 gold and they've equalized that dragon. It is going to be an Ocean Soul, which is nice for mitigating the poke from champions like Ezreal, like the Ziggs. But, ultimately, I don't think it's necessarily enough to be drastically game changing because it's going to come in so late this game, right? Earliest we can see a Soul would be at 33 minutes in the game. Which, if this game hasn't got a kill by that point, then I don't know what to say, Jake.
I mean, and again, it's an Ocean Soul. It's a lovely soul to get. It's not that Infernal though, so the impact it will have will be somewhat lesser. Now, if Penta are able to get it, when you got the Subjugate on, Trundle does become quite hard to kill. You do get the sustain from it, and Ocean Soul's lovely against late game Ziggs poke and even the LeBlanc. If she can't one-shot you and she just gets to chunk out, you can just kind of heal up as you kite away.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think it's gonna have that much value. I know it is against the poke for sure, but the only person who, for me, Ocean Soul tends to have more value the more sort of bulky members you have. And I know that definitely applies like the Camille, the Trundle, the rest of them, I'm kind of less convinced. But either way, Dragon of Peace, while away for the next one. Those summoners we're talking about, the Orianna Flash is back up and available. Everyone's got the summoners again because we're just not seeing a fight. So why would they have to use their summoners? But what I do like to see is this 1-3-1 by PDW. They have the LeBlanc in the top lane. They have the Camille pushing bot. It's actually kind of hard for Penta to deal with this because the Camille is just going to get stronger in the side lane matchup. But the Orianna doesn't like being in a side lane against LeBlanc because there is that constant kill threat. It is early days, right? So there is still a tower to give Orianna some protection, which makes it better. And I think if PDW can crack down this top tower, it puts the Orianna in a very uncomfortable position. So you can see them moving up towards there, getting some vision in the jungle. And if you look, because Penta just reset, this is ample opportunity for them to push this in. Phantomles isn't going to wait around to die, so there should just be a fair bit of damage on this tower. I don't think Czajek's going to be able to get it on this wave, though, but definitely going to be able to chunk it out. Actually, I say that, Ziggs is here, so this tower's going down.
Yep, one auto with the short fuse, and there it is. As we get later and later into the game, just keep your eyes on those short fuse autos, because it can half health a turret later. It's so crazy how much damage it does. And with the Mega Inferno Bomb, they have the ability just to clear the wave nice and easy. Scarface will get some free time, and with that Divine Thunder,
it's going to happen, Jake. It's gonna happen. We're gonna get a fight, right? Eventually, it's gonna happen.
Are we gonna just have a game with 0 kills?
They keep trading, right?
You know what? At
And like
this
they
point,
just
a 0
go to this
kill game
nexus.
is more hype than getting kills.
Anyone can get kills, right? Imagine
Yeah.
winning a game without getting a single kill. That'd be impressive. That would be.
That is a statement. Especially if you're someone like, well, I mean, PENTA, you know, they're on the back foot right now. But if they win this game without finding a single kill, that's a statement.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the statement says, but it says something. Yeah, so, you know, we're starting to move in towards those second item spikes. Scarface is actually pretty fed, so that's something to know, is this Gangplank's been farming up a storm. Obviously, he gets extra gold generation from his passive, so it's often something people talk about how good Gangplank scaling is. A big factor usually is that extra gold generation just means he has more items than you, right? I know he's got a farm lead on Camille, but also the extra cash in for the party means he's already got that collector finished. He's already working on his third item. This is going to be a mean threat, and honestly, you asked me earlier, Jake, about which team does it favor with a slow game. Early game, I was like, I don't think it's that big of a deal for either side. At this point, I think PENTA are feeling pretty happy, right? You have a GP, you have an Ezreal, you have an Orianna. There's still avenues for PDW to win, but this LeBlanc is going to be less and less relevant as the game goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does look like we're looking for a bit of action, and it's instantly dissuaded.
This could be it. Look, we have the Camille moving on a flank potentially. We might get a kill. Finally, 22 minutes in the game. Maybe.
Going for Scarface. He's caught out with the Hextech ultimatum. The cannon barrage is on. He puts the barrel down. There it is. 22 minutes on the clock, and Color finds first blood.
Beautiful, beautiful. You love to see it. We finally get a kill. You see PENTA trying to approach that dragon, get in position for it, but this is part of the power PDW has, is their pick potential, right? You have the Lee Sin, the LeBlanc, the Camille, all very mobile, can dive onto PENTA, and if you really need, you have the Ziggs ult or sort of alley-oop to help finish it off, and now, using that pressure they had from the Camille, they'll just lean it in, take that tier 2. Remember, tier 2s give a fair chunk of gold over, so PDW starting to find a fair bit of a lead. They're 4 towers to 1, 3,000 gold up, and importantly, Jake.
Oh my!
Yeah, well, I was talking about LeBlanc eventually falling off. Very much not at that point yet. Very much at a strong spike. We talked about the magic penetration earlier. You got the Void Staff. That's a lot of magic penetration. No MR on Funky. Czajek just does things.
Yeah. I mean, that was a pretty explosive LeBlanc play there. I mean, cheap item with the Void Staff. You obviously get all the extra pen just because of the fact that you've got that Ludens as well. Not really much he's going to be able to do about that. And sure, that is a spiked Ezreal. You know, Muramana, Divine Sunderer, but it's also a spiked LeBlanc. And with that, we do see the needlessly large rod get picked up here for Czajek. So it's building towards what I assume is going to be a death cap as the next item. Looks like OD as well. Either Horizon's Focus or death cap for them. And I think that's pretty high value.
PDW can really set this up well, so they can use the power. Oh, hello. I think he's okay. I think they can use the power of the silence. Actually, Czajek's looking.
Scarface, yeah, he's losing a lot of health. Covered able to take a fair amount of damage himself. The shockwave comes down. Leon looks to jump in as the satchel sends him packing. Barrel not going to get chained, and Bruness now finds a kick onto Rulfchen, looking for the kick. What an insect! Phantomles eats the chains, but the bomb will go down, and they find the kill onto the Nautilus. They do answer out here, though, for the side of PENTA. They find themselves a knock-off. The Scarface is oh so low, and this fight has gone oh so wrong for the side of PENTA. PDW just walking away with it.
Yeah, PDW really good at finding these opportunities, jumping on the critical members, using that mobility, using that pick potential. They'll very quickly take out a spread of members from PENTA. Now, Funky does survive there, but this tower certainly will not.
In front of the true shot, could it hit the LeBlanc? No.
And honestly, that was just super explosive. And I think this is part of the issue, that a mobile Orianna is a vulnerability, and you can see this beautiful play coming out from Bruness. Honestly, his Lee has been absolutely excellent, but finds the insect, doesn't really give much of an opportunity for Phantomles to react. We'll get to see it in a moment here, and this kind of just sparks off the play. The Warthog back is over the wall for the kick to get the angle there. Phantomles gets hit. There's no way they're escaping that. And honestly, you take out the Orianna, and it's such a critical factor in these team fights, and it's just really difficult for anyone from PENTA to walk up. There's so much burst, so much pick potential from PDW. That gold lead really rearing its head. And now 6 kills to 1. We had a slow start, but very quickly ramped up. There's a 5,000 gold lead for PDW in this one.
So 22 minutes to find the first kill, and then 25 minutes into the game. 4 minutes later, 3 minutes later, sorry. They want to pick themselves up to 6 kills now. I wouldn't say this is definitely Penta out, but a 5k deficit. It's going to be a rough one to pull back, claw back at least. Soul isn't coming up anytime soon.
And I think, for me, the reason I'm worried is Penta have had some solid, their first game of the tournament was a pretty proactive one, where they actually managed to contest in the early to mid game, and then they kind of fell apart from there. You know, some questionable commitments, some situations where they were just beaten in the team fights later on. I'm not super confident in their team fight ability, and I think PDW are really stellar at it. I think they're so good at knowing how to play around these fights, and so I'm a bit concerned with this deficit. Even though Penta have some scaling elements, I think it's very hard for them to find a route in. Realistically, they need someone from PDW to overstep. We talked about those high mobility champions. If they use all that mobility to get in, that's when you can turn things around. And they're leaving Scarface vulnerable. They're looking to try and make a turnaround play.
They are looking for it. Leon finds himself the knocker, but actually it's going to get blocked away. The true shot barrage goes down, and already Color on a rampage. The cannon barrage only clears the wave here. Bruness finds the kick off the Funky. Not going to take it, although Czajek is in the area. Looks like they're just going to back off for now. And honestly, Ziggs auto plus Satchel probably will kill that tower.
Absolutely. And I mean, PDW are in such a good spot, right? Massively ahead in gold. But critically, look at the summoners on the side of Penta. No flash on Phantomles, no flash on Funky. It leaves them vulnerable. Czajek can just clear out the vision on the top side with the help of his team. You can see him even sweeping as I say this. And then it's so hard for Penta to push forwards because, I mean, even you look at Rulfchen, he's actually going to feel squishy going up against LeBlanc. Has only one sort of MR component, but the Void Staff is more than enough to cut through that. But I think for now, PDW are going to move down towards that bot side, pick up the Dragon. They do have some lingering vision, and again, those picks are the big threat. If PDW take it a member, it could very easily lead to a Baron.
There's a very large wave as well shoving into the side of Penta on the bottom side, so someone needs to go answer that. So they're not going to really be able to handle this, or they're going to have to give up a bunch of that to try and contest this Dragon. It looks like they're okay to give up and contest, but I think with the Gold League, this is going to be a rough one.
I mean, honestly, PDW don't need to fight this. It's second Dragon at 29 minutes. It's not that important, but I think they want the fight. The TPs are coming in. It's going to be so hard for Penta to play this. If the LeBlanc and the Camille coming in from a flank, they're just doomed.
Oh, Scarface! That was the double distort onto him. The bomb goes down. The Dragon's been secured, but Color's looking for Funky. As he's going to get himself charmed up. The shockwave only hits onto Bruness, but it's not going to be enough. Only secures the first kill. A great hook onto the backline comes out by Covered as Color looks for Rulfchen. He's isolated. He's on his lonesome as Color is unstoppable right now. Knock up onto one. Into the cannon barrage. A double kill picked up for Scarface. The collector cashing in big. But Czajek just needs to land the chains. The shielding, the healing, able to just about get out from that one. I don't know how worth that was.
Honestly, I think Penta can be reasonably happy with this. The bot tower does go down, the inhibitor's going to follow, which is a little bit rough, but considering how far you are behind, things went all right, all things considered. You traded evenly in kills, you got the Dragon, you might get an extra kill actually onto Color. I think he just goes down here.
As well. Color, if they can keep Scarface alive, might be able to tidy this one up, but no, he's able to survive for now. The pillar comes down, they find the knockup, they find the stopwatch. They're looking for the chain from Scarface, but it's a double kill for Odie. Make it a steal for Colors. He is dominating this game. The 3 surviving members of the Dragon finally go down, and what was an okay play for Penta has now got a little bit awry as Funky is taking way too much damage in Color. Looking to see if he can find a kill onto the Trundle. There's the Mega Inferno onto the still. Funky so low.
I mean, at this point, the death time is long. It's only Funky. They actually could just end the game here.
Yep, Nexus is that's it. Color looks for him. Wow, that damage was huge. The ace is there. PDW. It was definitely a slower start to the game, but once they started to ramp up, they ramped up hard.
I mean, it went from like 23 minutes, there were no kills, to game ended at 30 minutes. The turnaround was super fast there. And honestly, I've just got to give credit to PDW for playing out so well. You know, we talked about Penta, how they had this potential for volatility if the mid jungle threatened them. That was, you know, some of the concern, but we essentially just saw them kind of mitigate that. But then as soon as it got to those later stages, the pick potential was there. Some excellent play from Czajek, some excellent play from Bruness as well on the Lee Sin, and it just really did not leave very much opportunity for this Orianna to do anything, for this Ezreal to do anything. The pick potential was constantly there.
It felt like when PDW played versus the side of Trick, they had their number. They were ready for them, and they were ready to kind of go into every fight and every situation. It felt the same here, but they wanted to play it a little bit slower this time around. But all in all, really solid game from PDW. Means they are 2-0 right now. But we'll talk a little bit more about that game. But first, time for a break. See you in a moment.
He's gonna flash in, and he steals the bomb. How does that connect by entry?
Fini as EU Masters Champions.
everybody, and welcome back to the Amazon EU Masters. We're going to be breaking down what was honestly the slowest game of the tournament so far, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But
yeah,
PDW do go 2-0. At the end of the day, they walk away with that W, and they can feel pretty happy with themselves because it was a slow start, but they got going.
Yeah, I think neither team was taking unnecessary risks there, but we saw PDW slowly accrue a lead. They weren't opting into fights necessarily, but they were picking up objectives, and then it got to this point where they felt comfortable to fight. and they started to look for these opportunities, and particularly off the back of Czajek and Bruness. I mean, in particular, this kick was just so stellar. But they made the Orianna feel like a vulnerability. They made the pick, that immobility, feel like a constant target, and then we saw them taking fights at their pace after this point. This was about 23 minutes into the game when we started to see kills, and the game was over by 30 minutes, so really accelerated this one.
Yeah, it was, you know, 22 minutes of calm, and then PDW went, all right, we want to start winning this game, and just looking for the fights. And you know, we raised kind of things saying, you know, for PENTA this could be good. Your Gangplank's getting pretty fed. He's, you know, accruing a CS lead, he's accruing a lot of gold. And I think PDW went, yeah, actually, you might be right there, and just decided to pull it. I mean, you could tell that was a pretty slow game when the replay package was just 2 fights.
Yeah. And I mean, you can even see on the gold graph the point where it spikes. Like, you can even see it's about that 22, 23 minute mark where they have built up that gold lead, but things just started going crazy.
Yeah.
And it was really just the acceleration from PDW, just setting the pace, finding those picks. And that final fight, they actually didn't find the flank they wanted. We saw PENTA disengage. The Gangplank started to turn things around, but then PENTA made the mistake of trying to commit back into it and ended up getting taken down. But, you know, the PDW, they're in a pretty good spot, securing their second win. So great for them. Obviously, we still need to see them face up against Movistar Riders, who are also 2 on the group. So kind of something big there. But PENTA, things are pretty worrying. You know, they had a great regular season in the Prime League. They haven't won a game since then. 3-0'd in playoffs, now 0-2 here. Need to start finding wins, or they're going to find themselves out of the tournament.
I mean, they absolutely need to bounce back, but that game is in the past as we are moving forward towards game number 5. We've got the PG Nat Matchco taking on from the LFL Carmine Court for our 5th game of the day, so don't go anywhere. See you in a moment.